The last time you were at a party or a social function with your children and someone says, "What do you do?" How fast did that person's eyes glaze over when you tried to explain every single thing you did versus just saying, like for me, I serve professional local businesses.
A company's B2B website is so much more than just a digital shop window. When built and promoted the right way, it can help you establish credibility, generate qualified leads, and ultimately help bring in more customers. That said, many B2B companies treat their websites like a digital brochure, and this leads to leaking revenue without the marketing teams even realizing it. So, how can marketing teams turn their websites into a revenue-generating machine? Welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast, and I'm your host, Christian Klepp. Today, I'll be talking to Cameron Laboudi, who will be answering this question. He's the founder of BidView Marketing, who brings a uniquely analytical approach to marketing strategy and execution. Let's dive in. All right. I'm going to say, Mr. Cameron Laboudi, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Christian.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Cameron. I mean, we had a great pre-interview call, and we talked about some stuff where I'm like, man, we really got to sit down and unpack this, right?
Yeah.
So off we go. All right. So, Cameron, you're on a mission to help professional services business achieve measurable results, predictable growth, and stronger client retention rate. So, for this conversation, let's focus on the following topic and unpack from there. So, how to turn your B2B website into a revenue-generating machine. And, who doesn't want that, right? But let's kick off the conversation with the following question, right? So, most businesses in the professional services space, they probably view their website as a digital brochure, and it's crammed with information about their services and founder bios and all this other content that may or may not be relevant to the target audience. But in your experience, what is the fundamental shift in mindset that needs to happen to stop treating a website as a cost center and start treating it as a predictable revenue-generating machine?
Who is your ICP? Which can sometimes come from working with a marketing agency. Sometimes it comes working with a business consultant. I find that when somebody's asking that question, like, we have this digital brochure, I don't think it's doing anything for us. More times than not, either they're chasing the wrong marketing or sales strategy, or they haven't well defined their ICP yet. So the worst and best example of that are small law firms who, when you ask them who do they serve, it's all types of law. And I think the correct answer to that in a law firm situation is you have law firms that specialize in injury law that only do rideshare accidents, right? And to a small law firm, they think that's crazy. Like, how could they, it's so nice that they have this niche. It's like, well, that didn't just happen. That was more times than not, that was very intentional. And so this is the question that needs to be asked for all businesses is, who do you serve? And then from that side, I'm really transparent. This catches a lot of people off guard. Sometimes digital marketing and website is not your best situation, and a digital brochure is the right answer. So a couple businesses that jump to mind are like financial advisors. If you go on the internet and you look for lead gen websites that are in the financial advisor niche, Edwards Jones in the United States pretty much dominates. And if you ask why that is, they have no minimums. And so they'll take the kid out of college with, $10, $15, $20,000 because they're playing the long game. But I'm in Chicago. There's plenty. I had lunch with a financial advisor last month. His minimum was $2 million. Now, this man, he knew who he was. He knew who his business was. And I asked him, how do you generate leads for a minimum of $2 million? He was doing mailers for a steak dinner at a very expensive Chicago restaurant. He had no desire to turn that website into a revenue generating source. And so back to my original point, who do you serve? So, dentists, lawyers, doctors, they have an industry or a niche online that people are looking for them. And so identify who that is and then build from there. So that's where I always start. And more times than not, I tell people hey, this isn't going to be a revenue generator. But for the ones that it are, when it hits, boy, does it feel good.
Yeah, I bet. Um, what, do you feel like in your experience, like a lot of these like smaller companies, like professional services companies, do you feel that the reason why they don't niche down is like almost like FOMO? It's like if they're worried that like, okay, but if I only zero in on one particular vertical, one particular persona, then I'm going to miss the opportunity in that other vertical.
100%.
Yeah.
And the so the answer to that is yes. But then the follow-up question to somebody who says that is, the last time you were at a party or a social function with your children and someone says, "What do you do?" How fast did that person's eyes glaze over when you tried to explain every single thing you did, versus just saying, like for me, I serve professional local businesses, right? I don't like, we do SEO nationally for 9-figure brands, but I don't advertise that. That's like an invite only thing that you need to know that I do, and you're only going to get to me through my partners. But if you go to our website or you look at any of our marketing and branding, we are very clear on who we serve. And even to some friends of mine, they think we should niche down even further. And I don't, disagree necessarily. I just have found good partners in the legal, the medical, and the engineering space that have made that possible. So think about that next time you're at a friend's baseball or your child's baseball game or a sporting event or at a social situation. Someone goes, "What do you do?" And you start rambling on, and their eyes just go like, if you can't tell them in under 10 seconds what you do, not a good position for your business to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to I tend to agree. I try to keep it short. And because I keep it short, they tend to dig a little more. Not because they don't understand, they want to know more.
Right. Yes. 100%.
Right? And that's the point, right? Mm-hmm. But I think, yeah, to your point, back in the day when I didn't have my elevator pitch down, yeah, people would, their eyes would glaze over and they'd say, "Oh, sorry, I gotta go get another drink," right? Like, and they never came back, right? Like,
I don't know what that guy does, but not for me.
Yeah, not for me. Exactly. Let's move on to the next question. So let's focus on loss. So in your experience, what are some of the most common ways the websites are silently killing deals or leaking revenue, as people like to call it, without even, without the marketing team even realizing it?
The brochure aspect of the website. So once you've decided that this is a lead generation source, your singular focus of a website should be generating that lead. People think that they need to use their website to educate all of their existing clients. And I'm trying to think if we have any clients. I don't think we have any clients that get more than 7% returning visitors. Meaning, once somebody's working with you, they're going through email to get to you. They're calling you. They're not going back to your website. So putting up, this is really common in the medical space specifically. They want to always put up their unique hours, and they're doing nonprofit work. They're doing all of these things, and they want it all above the fold. I can speak a lot to medical. We work with a lot of medical practices. People want two things in a medical situation. They want to know who the provider is, and they want to talk to that provider as fast as possible. And that's hard for a medical provider to hear, because if you ask them about their day, they answered the same question 10 times, and they think, well, why don't I just put the answer to that on my website? But when somebody's having a medical situation, they believe they're in a unique situation, and they need to talk to you. So they need to believe that you're the person to fix that, and they need to figure out how fast to get to you. So we see this, we get asked all the time, "Can you put this Instagram video up that I talked about this?" Or, "Hey, I went on this trip," or, "Hey, we're doing this nonprofit work," or, "Hey." I love all of that. There's a place for it. I think social media is a good spot for it. I think if you have a newsletter, it's a good spot for it. But above the fold on your website is not the place to distract people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think a lot of it is also coming from that inside out point of view, right? Like they're not putting on the lens of the customer, and like, if I'm going to this medical provider's website, what would I be looking for? And then they get so caught up in the internal, I call it the internal high fives, like, hey, we've done this charity work, or we've released this report. I think, I'm working with a client right now that does that, right? We're releasing this report, and it kind of feels internally that at least it's more important to the people internally than it is to the market at large, right?
Yeah, they think, like, if you ask a client what their patient or customer journey is, they think about it from the first time that they walk through the door. Right? Like, oh,
Right.
the journey started here, and what I'm always trying to do is educate that no, it starts uh, in some cases before they even know they have a problem.
Mm.
You can find, and this is not typical of the industries I serve, but if you're in a startup situation where you have a product that
Yeah.
people are unaware of, you have to educate, then sell. So some of the businesses we work with are, people don't know about these. My sister always comes to mind in this situation. She's a medical professional that owns a women's health fitness studio. People don't know their options around health prior to having a health incident. So she has to educate before they even think about, like, oh wow, there are yoga classes and breathing classes that can help with fertility and all these things. And so she has to go prior to them even knowing they have a problem. So the best practice is what a medical practitioner would say, or the patient journey or the customer journey starts way before they come through the door. And your website needs to account for that. Your marketing practices need to account for that, and think about it. Think about it, months, weeks, years ahead before they ever need you.
Exactly. All right. So, I mean, a revenue generating website shouldn't just attract anyone, right? So in fact, you should qualify the right prospects and disqualify the wrong ones. I think we can agree on that. But like, how do you craft the B2B messaging that it speaks directly to the key challenges of those high value clients?
So the answer to this is, it depends on who you are. So we actually today had a customer kickoff call, brand new medical practice. He's been a practitioner for many years, but he has never owned a business. So he has no patience. So my answer to him is not that you serve everybody, but that you're willing to talk to everybody. And there's a difference.
There is indeed a difference.
I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't know who you serve.
Yeah.
It means that you have the time to speak with more people now.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is how much friction are you putting in to your copy, your online scheduling, your online contact form. Friction means you are making them jump through hoops to qualify them that they're the right person to be coming into your business. If you are new or young and you have time in your day, it will benefit you to talk to more people. When you become so busy that you don't know where the next 10 minutes are going, then it's time to really up the friction. And so you want to put in qualifiers. We're a medical practice. We only take, be very clear, we only take these insurances, or we are private pay, or if you don't return our phone call in the next, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but if you don't return our call in the next hour, we are taking your appointment off of our schedule.
Right.
I'm being a little aggressive here, but
Sure.
point I'm trying to make is you ramp up friction once you get busy to make sure that nobody is wasting your time. Everybody who calls you, passes through the door, meets your high standards of a good customer. There's a famous book, they call it your pumpkin. Like, who's your pumpkin? Who are you trying to serve? And the whole book is about your ideal customer profile, but making sure that so we're actually going through this right now with a copywriter for one of our brands. She doesn't want everybody. She's a doctor. She loves seeing musicians. That's not this industry's typical patient. They love musicians. They're in a city that has lots, and it works. They have enough to support a very successful business, but their brand is going to be very oriented to musicians. When you show up there, they're going to, like, yes, they're a doctor, but they're going to look at the brand and go, I don't know if this brand's for me. Is it for me? I recently saw a home build. We didn't do this one. I was actually, our copywriter that we worked with was doing this.
Yeah.
And she showed us a home builder. And there was a video of the home builders drinking beers with the house they just built. Now, maybe to you or somebody listening is like, that sounds, I want to work with that home builder. But for some people, if they saw like you clinking beers with your home builder after a successful build, like that might not match up with like
No,
who
that's
you
right.
are. Right. They are being very selective on who they identify with, just through their brand. And so these are ways you can add in friction, in some cases, branding in others, to self-select the people you want to work with.
Right.
And
right.
I'll use me as an example. The reason I work with professionals is because I was an engineer. It's very natural for me to talk to those professionals. I don't do well with, the plumber who's answering his phone in between appointments. Like that's just, we have friction there. I need someone answering the phone. I need somebody to be looking at data. I align really well with doctors, lawyers, and engineers, and that my personality has driven my business to fit into self-selecting for those clients.
Fantastic. I'm gonna have to ask you a serious question here, though, Cameron. Like that medical clinic that deals with musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be a deal breaker if they didn't play that musician's music in the clinic when they came in?
No, I'm really close with that. We are really close. Her and I have become very good friends. She loves all the music, but that would be, I'm sure she'd have their record spinning if they came in.
Probably it's a delicate balance, right?
Yeah.
All right. In our previous conversation, you talked about something with like whopping statistics. I think you mentioned that you had this case study where a website rebuild generated, let me see if I can get this right, 3,000% more appointments for your client in just 30 days before, I have to emphasize this, before any marketing spend.
Yes.
So walk us through what you did there.
So that's happened actually to us twice now.
Wow. Since we last talked.
Yeah. So that has happened to us twice. And I want to make something really clear. These both medical practices, they both were very well known already. They did all of the footwork, right? They had been in the industry for years. They had lots of patient referrals. What was happening was that these patients were showing up, these referrals were showing up to their website, and they didn't understand how to contact the business. I wish we were magic. It's not magic. They already did the work. We just had to show that they were to be trusted. So in one case, both cases, thinking back to those websites, honestly, they looked like I built them my freshman year of high school, like in Flash. Like that's how like old. It was like pictures, paste. It was, they were very successful medical practices.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
Websites that looked like that. Like, it really looked like a high school kid put it together. And it wasn't obvious. Like I had to spend time to figure out how to contact the business on these websites. They weren't mobile optimized. That might be the most egregious offense. You just couldn't contact the business. So people were bouncing off if they didn't understand to use this. They both served older patient populations who probably didn't understand how to use Google Business Profiles. And so people were getting there, and they were getting, on both of these practices were getting 0. They said a good month, they'd get 3. The following month of the new site going live, both websites had, the one website had over 40 contacts and the other one had over 30. And these were like real patient. This wasn't spam. Like it wasn't, I think if you counted the spam, it would have been probably 100. Like legitimate leads of people who wanted to come in the office were both, one was over 30, one was over 40. The value of each one of those conversions is over $5,000. So yeah, just like wrap your head around that for a second. Like that, just like, that's how much money was just on the table that was already showing up to the website, that they were just like, I don't know. And they're leaving.
So hang on, they went from 3 leads in a good month to having 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they both were, I don't know exactly what the revenue numbers were, but they were like solidly mid 6 figures, which is not, for this industry, is probably like a typical single provider type practice. Both of those brands are well into 7 figures now. So
wow, that's incredible. And it sounds like it sounded like a major tweak, at least in terms of the website. And if we can go into that a little bit, because I think that would be very interesting to know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
again, let's preface this with, okay, these are both medical practices, right?
They are.
So
Yep.
okay, so do you think it was more like the client success? Because you did say that they did a lot of the groundwork already, but in terms of the website, was it more about adding new persuasion elements, like more social proof, better copy? Was it about removing friction? Like maybe the previous version of the website was, the navigation was confusing, the forms were too long. Um, what was it? Was it a bit of everything that I've just mentioned? I mean, how do professional services firms strike a balance, right?
Well, so we'll use the one specific. The other one went from just a really poor user
Yeah.
experience to just a really clean medical site that hit on all the things you just mentioned. But the
Right.
other one, we can talk about the other one because
Sure.
I think this is a fantastic branding case that people overlook. So it's a woman, younger, for a practice owner or a younger business owner in an industry that it is female dominated, but oftentimes the messaging is that you shouldn't be female in this. Like people trust male doctors more. And I don't believe, as a marketing person, I disagree with that. I think you should be who you are. And I think there's identifying with you is going to drive more success than trying to be something that you're not, right? We never even had this conversation with her. She just was very much, this is who I am, and I want my brand to match this. And I remember most of our kickoff calls, but that one specifically, she was in her office and she, similarly to me, since she had like her background, and she just goes, you see what's behind me? And she had very good personal style and design eye. She said, I want my brand to feel like what's behind me. And that's all she had to say to our designer. And our designer was like, understood. And she came out with this pink and turquoise female brand that a lot of our other clients have seen and gone, I don't like it. Well, guess what? Her patients like it. She likes it. And if you look at her revenue numbers, they agree with her brand. And so, yes, we fixed all of the things, the mobile and the scheduling, but her brand is tight. Everything about her brand is tight. You know who she is. You know her email newsletter aligns with that brand. She aligns with that brand. Her staff aligns with that brand. And it's just, they all are just comfortable with it. They're not trying to be the blue and white medical practice. They are pink and green and female. And that doesn't mean they provide, she's incredible. I mean, where she's located, she is the doctor you go to see. She's in a very wealthy suburb of a large major American city. And she was on the younger end. And that brand is who she is. And I think that has a lot to do with her success. And I try to show that to people, and oftentimes they push back, like, I don't want them. I mean, I'm not telling you that you need their brand. I'm telling you that it's okay to be you. And we can make that marketing message around it. We work with lawyers, and they're always like, I got to be a lawyer. Well, sure. But I have a friend who's a law firm here. If you talk to her, she specializes in divorces, representing the female side of the divorce cases. Like, she has all female lawyers. She's like, it was an accident. I didn't intend to hire only female lawyers. It just happened that way.
Yeah.
And now all of our referrals are from the past women who have gotten divorced, and they're just referring us. And that's how we've grown. That's who we are, and that's how we identify. And I think that's great when you know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, to your point, and I think that's a great case study. I mean, both from the aesthetic, because I'm trying to like envision it here, right, mentally, and just from the performance perspective. But I do find, and I'd like to get your take on this, more often than not, in professional services, especially B2B, they're a little bit risk averse. They're like, I want to be Cameron, I want to be creative. And then you show them something and they're like, you know what? That's a little too creative, right? That's a little too wild. And then they default to like playing it safe. And why do you think that is?
Usually they're not far enough along in their career to be really confident yet in who they are. So we have a completely different situation. Very successful doctor who is, it's been a really fun and hard situation for my team to navigate, because she wants to kind of upend what the industry knows about her. Not her, but the industry as a whole. And so she's came to us and just told us, like, I want something completely like out of left field. And I honestly, this is really like, I was like, I told her, I said, Lori, I don't know even how to price this. To be honest with you. I don't even know where to start. I said, I'll give you an hourly price because I don't really know where you're going. And I don't think anybody knows where you're going.
Okay, fair enough.
And so we sat down with her, and there were iterations of like, who are you? What are we trying to solve for? And how are we trying to frame this? And interviews. We interviewed her and interviewed her and interviewed her and just heard her talk and heard her talk and heard her talk. And we just extracted that out of her over and over and over. And her brand at the end, I mean, my designer doesn't like it, but there's movement and there's stories and there's, it feels like a, not like a novel in like the length, but a novel in that like hero's journey. Like you show up and she presents you with this problem and how industry doesn't solve it properly now. And like, she really takes you on like this journey. And what has supported her is that if you talk to any of her patients, she happens to also live like, so I've been in her office. A lot of our clients are national. And I recommended her to a friend, and he bugged me for months. He's like, Cameron, I want to record a testimonial video for her. I have met so many of these types of doctors, and she is one of one. And so when you have patient testimonials like that, when you believe who you are that much and you make that much of a difference in people's lives, people will, I mean, he's banging on her marketing team's door to record a testimonial. Like,
wow.
Let's go. And so we went in, we sat for an hour, and he and I just had a conversation. We are not a videography company, but when someone wants to leave a testimonial like that, I will figure out how to do a videography.
Absolutely, man.
And we sat with him, and he just told us the whole story, and then we had editors chop it up. And so, point being, when you know who you are that well, it's okay to take risks, because your testimony, like the testimonials. And I hope we all strive to be as awesome as Lori, right? That type of passion and dedication to getting results. I mean, that's how I want my clients to talk about me. But that's what allows you to be more creative, to think outside the box. When you do hear your patients or your customers, we have a tax attorney who he's like, again, I wouldn't say he's one of one, but he has this very unique specialty in knowing how to deal with a lot of the tariff stuff that happened. And so we were able to promote that. And historically, he was only getting called from the state he was in. Now he's getting phone calls from the West Coast, where a lot of the ships are coming in, where these businesses are located. Like, hey, heard you know something about this tax. And they're raving about him. And now they're passing his name around. He's like, I've never had clients from California. This is incredible. So we were able to promote him in a unique way because he had this specialty and he had those customer testimonials.
Amplifying that expertise, as it were, right? Fantastic. So, and you've probably come across this question before, but like, if a professional services firm realizes its website is currently a leaky bucket, what should their priority list look like, at least for the first 90 days of a turnaround, to ensure they see a tangible increase in ROI?
How much money do you have to spend?
Right.
Right. Like that's the question, who's on staff that can fix it, who there has the expertise. But if you're doing it, if you're trying to do it in-house, I always tell people, just go Google, get on Google, search your services, search your industry, poke around at your competitors. How are they doing it? If you get on your website, I said this, I was on an AI podcast. It was completely we weren't even talking about marketing and branding, but she asked about looking at websites. I said, get on mobile. How are you perceived on your phone? Nobody thinks to do, nobody who runs a business looks on their phone at their business. They are at their desk looking at their website on their desk. Look at the phone. Most industries are at least seeing 60% of their traffic come through mobile. I can think of a few situations where it's lawyers selling to lawyers tends to be more desktop, but there's a few unique engineering to engineering, a few unique niches, but for the most part, check out your mobile experience. Can you click? Does the forms pop up when you try to write on mobile? So doing some simple things like that, and then checking out what your competitors are doing. If you say you don't have a competitor, which I've heard, which may be fair, you don't have a one-to-one competitor in exactly who you are, but you do have competitors competing for that service keyword or that business keyword. Search that. That might be your competitor from a digital standpoint. So I hear that all the time. I'm like, these are your competitors. Like, no, they're not. They don't do what I do. Well, okay, they might not be a private practice. They might not be a tax attorney, but they are going after those keywords, those search terms. And so they are digitally a competitor. So it matters how they're attacking the situation. So look at that. And so that's where I would start kind of week one, and then determine what you're willing to do to fix it. So if this is, again, it depends who's listening to this, but if like all I can do is $500, like you probably need to jump on Fiverr and band-aid something together. If it's, oh no, we're a 7, 8, 9 figure, you're a 9-figure brand. Those conversations, I've been in a lot of those calls. That's a very unique conversation. Like, there's a lot of stakeholders in those calls. The 7 and 8 figure brands are usually working with 1 or 2 teams of people to solve those problems. There's usually not a lot of technology pieces moving around, right? Those 9-figure brands usually there's some back end technology piece that has to be considered.
Sure.
But at the the 7 to 8 figure size, you're solving it with money, right? Like, you're bringing in expertise. They should be auditing your competitors. They should be laying out a roadmap. They should be thinking strategically. And I know a lot of different people start in different places. It might be the copywriter. It might be the engineer. The marketing team. Sometimes it's, we do paid ads. So we start with the paid ads team. And, you should think about it all, right? It should all work together, and there should be a very clear roadmap.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But at the fundamental level, it's basically those things that you said, like who has the expertise, get on Google, do some competitor research, see what it looks like on your phone. No, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I had a discussion with a client about that like 2 weeks ago, that, they were talking about desktop. I'm like, yeah, but look, if somebody's going to an event where your boss is speaking and they're scanning a QR code, chances are they're viewing your website on their phone, right?
Yeah. So how fast does it load, right?
Yeah.
Is
it responsive? Right?
It's responsive, and if it's not popping up quickly, you're not winning that league at all.
That's right. Cameron, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and for sharing your expertise and experience with the audience. Please, a quick introduction to yourself and how people out there can get in touch with you.
Cameron Lavuti. I am the founder of B2B Marketing. We, as I've mentioned a few times here, we specialize in mostly professional services, doctors, lawyers, engineers. If you want to just talk to me one-on-one, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of on LinkedIn. Or if you would like to talk to me in a more formal setting in a meeting, if you go to our website, b2bmarketing.com, all of those actually do get to me and our account manager, Erica, and she will set up a time for us to chat. So that's the easiest way to talk.
Fantastic. So we'll be sure to put all those links in the show notes once the episode comes out. So Cameron, once again, thanks so much for your time. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Christian.
All right. Bye for now.